Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Black Friday. It's Daryl here. It is not so bright and early. It's coming up on 9 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. Okay, stick with me here because I'm going to kind of freewheel through this. It's just going to be kind of from my heart and off the top of my head because there's so much I want to talk about here. I mentioned to you guys in one of the previous video that I was considering, I was debating about talking about the Colorado Springs, the Club Q incident, the suspect, Anderson Lee Aldrich. There's pictures that came out of him after he was apprehended, and he was bruised severely. And the report is that his weapon was taken away from him. He was by bartenders and other patrons of Club Q, and he was put down with the butt of the weapon. And not only that, but one of the transgender people there wearing boots proceeded to stomp out Mr. Aldrich. Okay, so part of me, I actually made a meme with a picture of his bruised face over sideways and a picture of some go-go boots on his head, saying, a couple of different things. I mentioned how, not the Club Q story, that's horrific, but the fact that the manner in which this guy was captured, how that's the best news I heard since the midterms. That having his weapon taken from him, and not just that, but a transgender person who have been the target of most of the conservative right apprehended this person and stomped him with their own boots. So I was debating about talking about this because part of me, it didn't feel right, because such a horrific thing happened. Should I joke about it, even though it was good? This was self-defense, and him being apprehended and everything is a good thing, but still something didn't sit quite right with me. Any kind of laughing or memes or something about the people lost there that day. So I was debating this. Like glorifying this. I still had a problem. I was debating whether I was going to do a video about this, and something else popped up yesterday that I have to talk about. I talked about the grandfather, the MAGA, the goofy grandfather. So TMZ, I'll put the link down below. TMZ came out with a news story yesterday talking about the suspect's father. Okay, his name is Aaron Brink. Okay, and so I'm reading the story. It talks about how he's a past MMA fighter. And the thing that this guy says, this is TMZ's story. This is the main point of the story. The goofy, ridiculous thing that the father said. He said, basically, he said, in the family, we don't do gay. It was news to him because supposedly now the suspect's lawyer says he wants to use specific pronouns. And it looks like an obvious attempt to try to dodge a hate crime charge, make him look like he's part of the community. And by all accounts, this guy has never used any of these pronouns or anything like that. It's just a scam to get out of the hate crime charge. But anyway, so they're talking to the father, this tough looking, I guess, father in the TMZ, and I'm looking at this and I'm reading the article, and it talks about how he was in X-rated movies. He did X-rated movies, and that his name, his stage name in these movies was Dick Delaware. Really, true story. And I'm like, oh my God, I've heard that name before. This seems familiar, and not in the way you think. All of a sudden it clicked because I mentioned the show Intervention. You can watch this show Intervention by downloading the A&E app. And you could get this. It's episode 6. It's season 6, episode 8. So you can actually see the suspect's father. This is from 2000. I believe the air date was February 17th, 2009. I believe. Okay. Now, I was like, oh my God, and then the TMZ article made no mention of any of this about the intervention, this guy being on intervention. His addiction, he was in the show, he admitted how he was addicted to methamphetamines and pornography. That it actually says in this article, in this show, that he would watch this X-rated stuff and I don't know how to phrase this, self-pleasure for up to 12 hours a day. Now, that seems a bit excessive. But anyway, so I'm amazed, because once again, I'm scooping TMZ, like with the story initially with the MAGA grandfather. Okay, so all the links will be down below. Now, I was debating talking about any of this because I am a recovering addict, so am I going to sit here? I don't want to sit here and make it sound like, the father was such a bad guy, he was an addict and he was into pornography and all that. That's not what I'm saying here, because God knows, I've been there. I've not the same thing, but here's the thing though. There's been another shooting now. That's the thing. We start to lose track. There's so many of these incidents now. I think there's been I've lost track. I completely lost track. But I'll tell you this. Marjorie Taylor Greene has been complaining about the 300 fentanyl deaths every year. This year, I think we're up to 600. I'll have the link down below. 637 deaths from these mass incidents just this year. Double what Marjorie Taylor Greene is all up in arms blaming the immigrants for. How come we don't hear it? How come there's not one peep about that? Because she criticized Joe Biden for his consoling speech about the Club Q incident, about those 5 people, but she didn't mention that those 5 people out of 637 that have lost their, it's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. So I thought about talking about all this. And here's the reason I want to talk about it. I think we're all, you talk about how the solutions for this. What are the solutions? And I believe there should be checks and bans. I mean, there's so many of these things out there, but it seems rather hard to control it now. The thing is, though, back in the 90s, there was a ban, and it worked, and it did work. I know I'm going to get people disagreeing. And if you're new to my channel, I was raised and owned weapons, rifles, pistols my entire life. So I'm not one of those liberals that don't know anything about guns. Okay, so mental health. I think we're all curious. What are the warning signs? What's the pattern? Because I know with drug use, a good portion of men and women that become addicts, it's hereditary, but a good portion of them too have had some kind of sexual abuse from their childhood. If you watch the show Intervention, you'll see it over and over again. So what are the warning signs? So that's the reason I'm talking about this. This is the thing that bothers me. He was an addict like I was an addict. Here's the thing too. I never had any children. And for this main reason, that I couldn't even take care of myself. I knew that through my 20s and 30s. So I made a point of not going down that road, because I knew not only would I ruin my life, I'd ruin somebody else's for sure. I was sure of that. So I made a point of being very careful of not having children of my own. But this is the thing that gets me. In Intervention, if you go back and watch it, season 6, episode 8, they don't talk about a child at all, which is so incredibly unusual. I'm wondering if the father lied, if the father never even told Intervention that he had a child, because this was in 2009, this Intervention with Anderson Lee Aldrich's father on it, the MMA fighter, the porn star. And there's no mention in this entire episode about them having any children. And it's a sordid tale too. The father was arrested for altercations, and in order to make bond, his wife at the time too was also, he met her because she was working in the adult film industry. Here's the thing though, I couldn't figure out if this is also his mother. I don't think it is. They make no mention of this child, because Anderson Lee Aldrich must have been, he was 22, so he must have been born in 2000, in the year 2000. So by 2009, he was 9 years old. So at the time of this intervention show, this is, it's not just the methamphetamine and the adult films, but I'm wondering why this child was never mentioned, and it's why it was hidden. Did he not tell the people? Were these two working in the adult film industry and using and had a child? I don't think that's the case. So I'm still looking into all this, and I'm not doing this. I'm just doing this to try to figure out. These things are happening every week, every couple of days at this point. And I think we're all trying to figure out a solution and trying to figure out what makes these people do these things that they do. Is there certain definitive red flags? And I can't help but think the father and the stepmother or mother being involved in this industry with these substances is bad enough. Like I said, I can't criticize that myself. But the fact that he wasn't even mentioned in intervention, and then TMZ didn't even mention the show Intervention, so it really feels like, how come I'm the only one that can find out this information? Why is it seems to be being hidden for some reason? That's where I'm at here. Like I said, the links, I know this is confusing. The links will all be down below. On the thumbnail, I'm going to put a picture from the actual intervention show with his face, because he looks considerably older now. And by the way, he's supposedly clean and sober at the making of that intervention show, but that was 12 years ago. So it's anybody's guess now. And again, this is the guy that claims that and he says to TMZ too that he's a conservative Republican, so we don't do gay. What do you even say to something that stupid? The links will all be down below. I'm going to keep looking into this. I'm trying to figure out where was the child during, Anderson Lee Aldrich, where was he during this? Are these two, is that the mother that's in this intervention show? Why wasn't he mentioned in the intervention show? Because kids it's an important part of the intervention. Why wasn't he ever mentioned? The fact that he wasn't mentioned, could that be why he might have been trying to get attention from a father? And then this happened, he targeted a specific place. As usual, more questions than answers. The links will all be down below. I'm going to talk about this again. I hope I don't get yellow lighted on this. All right, I'll be back later with another video. I want to talk about social anxiety too this time of year. You guys have a good Black Friday.